Have you ever finished hanging out with friends and gone home feeling more alone than before? Have you ever been in a group of people, smiling, participating, responding, but inside feeling like none of it was real, like you didn't belong there? If the answer is yes, I need you to know one thing. The problem was never that you were too much, too strange, or too complicated. The problem is that you spent years surrounded by the wrong people and believing you had no choice. People with ADHD carry a very specific story of rejection, of loneliness, of masking just to fit into places that were never theirs. And that story creates a devastating belief that any friendship is enough, that you should be grateful for very little. But today, I'm going to show you that this is a lie, that you do have a choice, that there are people out there who will truly understand you, and that finding your people starts with a shift that is internal, not external. If you have ADHD, it's very likely you've been too grateful for a friendship that, deep down, wasn't good for you, just because someone accepted you. That's the scarcity mindset, the silent belief that you can't be selective, that anyone who shows up is already enough. And the worst part, that belief was installed so early that it feels like absolute truth. People with ADHD grow up hearing they are too much or difficult, and that slowly erodes their self-worth until the point where any acceptance feels like a rare gift. But accepting just anyone isn't gratitude, it's disguised desperation. And this pattern has deeper roots than you might think. Think about it. In childhood and at school, you didn't choose your friends. They were determined by the classroom you were placed in, the neighborhood you lived in, the group that tolerated you. For someone with ADHD, this environment was even harder because the feeling of always being in an inferior position, of chasing acceptance, became an automatic pattern. You learned to fit in wherever you could, not where it actually made sense. The problem is that this childhood learning followed you into adulthood, like an invisible backpack you didn't even realize you were carrying. The lack of social choice in the past turned into a limiting belief in the present, that loneliness is your natural state, and that rejection is only a matter of time. But what if I told you that was never true? When you spend years accepting any friendship just to avoid being alone, something silent starts to happen. Your self-esteem drops, and the lower your self-worth gets, the less you believe you deserve to choose. So you accept even less, from even worse people. It's a cruel, long-term cycle that feeds itself without you even noticing. People-pleasing becomes your default way of existing. The practical result of this? Friendships that feel more like obligation than connection, a constant sense of boredom in relationships, and a silent acceptance of mistreatment that you would never accept for someone else. The rejection you tried so hard to avoid ends up happening from the inside out. You reject yourself by settling for so little. And while this cycle isn't broken, finding your people will keep feeling impossible. At school, your social world fit inside a room of 30 people. It makes sense that your mind learned to operate from scarcity, because scarcity was the reality. But here's the point that changes everything. You're not 10 years old anymore. In adult life, there are millions of people in the world. Online communities, interest groups, events, podcasts, entire networks of people who think like you. The problem was never a lack of options. It was a mindset stuck in the past. The shift begins when you consciously decide that you can choose your friendships, that you have the right to filter people, to say, this isn't my place without guilt, that not your people isn't failure, it's information. This shift doesn't happen overnight, but it starts with a simple question. Who do I actually want around me? Finding compatible people isn't luck, it's intention. It starts when you stop pretending to like things just to please others, and begin to seek real connections around what genuinely moves you. If you love video games, science fiction books, or long conversations about the universe at 2 a.m., that's where your people are, not at the party you only went to so you wouldn't seem antisocial. Compatibility isn't perfection, it's authenticity. The biggest mistake people with ADHD make in friendships is creating a false version of themselves right at the start. The authentic self gets hidden out of fear of rejection, and then the entire relationship is built on something that isn't real. The problem is that maintaining that mask is exhausting, and sooner or later it falls apart. Being who you truly are from the beginning doesn't push the right people away. It's exactly what attracts them. There's a very common confusion that needs to be cleared up. Adapting the way you relate to others is not the same as masking. Masking is pretending all the time, hiding your ADHD, suppressing who you are, performing a vision of yourself that pleases others but doesn't actually exist. It's exhausting, unsustainable, and in the long run, it destroys any chance of real connection. If you've ever left a social situation feeling like you just performed in a play, you know exactly what I mean. Adaptation, on the other hand, is conscious and healthy. It's telling the people close to you that you take time to reply to messages, not because you don't care, but because your brain works that way. It's creating fixed social routines, because spontaneity doesn't always work for your neurodivergent mind. It's developing social skills that work for you without giving up who you are. Clear boundaries don't push real friendships away. They're exactly what sustain them. You set criteria for almost everything in life. The job you want, the neighborhood you want to live in, even the phone you're going to buy. But when it comes to friendships, suddenly anyone will do. Just like in a romantic relationship, you need to consciously think about who you want around you, what values matter to you, who makes you feel lighter after spending time together, who respects your boundaries without making you feel like you need to apologize for existing. The final goal isn't to have many friends, it's to have the right ones. People who truly see you, who celebrate your authentic self instead of just tolerating it, who make loneliness disappear not because of the number of messages, but because of the quality of the connection. When you stop accepting just anyone out of fear and start choosing with intention, something changes. You stop feeling that wrong people energy and finally begin to find your people. So answer this honestly. How many of your current friendships did you actually choose? And how many did you simply accept because they showed up? How many times have you masked, swallowed your boundaries, and hidden your authentic self just to avoid rejection? These questions are uncomfortable because they touch something real, and that discomfort is exactly the first step towards change. You no longer need to operate from a scarcity mindset. You don't need to pretend to like things you don't, live in people-pleasing, or settle for friendships that drain more than they build. Your self-worth doesn't depend on how many people accept you. It depends on how honest you are about who you really are. And when you start living like that, the right people show up. Not your people leave, and your people stay. If this content made sense to you, if at any point you thought, this is exactly how I feel, then this channel was made for you. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and come with us. Because every week there's more content like this. Direct, honest, and made for people with ADHD who want to live in a way that finally makes sense.